Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by Under Armour. If you're looking for some deals on some gear, and I think you could still get it in under the wire before Christmas, visit steelcityunderground.com/UA. That's cleverly an acronym for Under Armour for more details on everything Under Armour. Protect the house. As I said, you probably couldn't hear me because I screwed up the last podcast and still had your clip, Brian, playing in the background. I corrected it at least on the audio-only formats. YouTube people, sorry, it didn't really affect you. I wasn't going to screw up all the wonderful comments and views. By the way, my name is Joe Kuzma. I am joined by my cohort, Brian E. Roach. What's up, Bri?
It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. As always, in South Jersey, life is full of joy and happiness.
No, it's not. I'm still bitter. I am still angry. I hate the New England Patriots. If you're one of you want to know why I hate the New England Patriots? It's more or less because of their fans. You only choose to listen when you get a tainted victory, a controversial win, and you got to try and twist the knife in my back. You know, I would say there's going to be a return visit and some payback, but I'm not so confident New England makes it to the AFC Championship like the Steelers will. I got the big boy pants on today. Let me tell you, these people they find us, whether that be Steel City Underground, myself, Joe Kuzma, on various social media platforms, Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and they like to talk smack. They like to try and act like Jesse James only has two fingers. Clearly, they could see the ball hit the ground. The conclusive evidence that exists nowhere else on film. I don't care how you put it. There's a great photo up in the photo galleries. It's Carl's Weekly Picks on Steelers.com. I think it's like /photos or something. But if you go to the Steelers site or the app, you'll see it there too. And of course, Brian, I'm leading off with this. I don't know. Everybody's like, oh, are you going to drone on about this for a half hour again? I probably could. Some people are going to be like, get over it. I'm never going to get over it. I'm willing to move past it, but I think this is one of those things the Steelers put in their back pocket and they pull it out every Sunday going forward. That opponent's going to be the New England Patriots, whether it's not. If it's the Texans this weekend, it's the Patriots. Beat them, angry. Cleveland Browns week after, beat them, angry. And then whoever they draw in the playoffs. But I have to ask you, Brian, has your opinion on this catch changed from when you last spoke with us?
All right, I'm going to answer that question, but the first thing I have to do, because in all fairness, I don't like the Patriots either. I never have, and you know it's a double whammy for both you and I with Brady because of the Michigan thing. But at the same time, yeah. At the same time, today I was given a glimpse, a partial hope that humanity can mend itself and all things are right and there are actual human beings when David Wade tweeted, sorry, I love the Pats, but if that's not a catch, then the NFL should shut down as a league. So there's a Pats fan who knows, absolutely knows in his heart that was a catch. Tony Dungy knows in his heart, in every other field of play, high school, college, flag, any other kind of football, that's a catch. In the NFL, it wasn't a catch. And I will go back and say, you know, I didn't have a problem with the refs ruling against it. And if they were consistent, I still don't have a problem if every time a catch like that occurred, it was always incomplete.
Hallelujah. That's all I'm asking for.
Consistency. I've been preaching it all year. That's all I ask for from the refs is consistency. But there is none because nobody understands anything. The refs, I think the term I often use is stink. They stink. And clearly the one of the head stinkers is that whatever his name, Riverion, whatever his name is.
Al Riveron, or Alberto Riveron is his full name, kind of like you call me Joe instead of Joseph. So, and
yes.
I call you Brian instead of Brian. I don't know why. I'm all about, maybe I'll call you B from now on.
I was called that many times. Anyway, the bottom line here, I've looked at that catch probably without underestimating it now over 1,000 times. And the more I look at it, the more convinced I am that there is absolutely no way you can change the ruling. And it's the simple words that are in the concept of video replay. Indisputable video evidence. There is none. There absolutely is no indisputable video evidence that ball hit the ground or that it was out of his control and the ground allowed him to regain control. There is no just cause for overturning that catch.
Yeah, and I wanted to give a shout-out real quick to Trey Essex, who agreed. He had posted a still image. He posted quite a bit of, is that vitriol or whatever? He was on fire on Twitter, and I'd responded to something of his, and then he said, thank you for that. That was perfect, blah, 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 whatever it was. So shout-out, former Steeler, of course, Ramon Foster and a few others that are friends with him from back in the day, where there was a little bit of back and forth. There was quite a bit going back and forth, to be completely honest. And then, I was kind of curious. I had said one of the guys we tried to connect with before this game on Sunday with the Patriots was, this past Sunday, that is, was Bryant McFadden, because I wanted to get his opinion on the corners and everything like that. And you know what? I thought I'd like to hear his opinion now. It was probably even more relevant after the fact than before the fact, because we had thought maybe Joe Hayden was going to be back and everything like that. And we're going to talk about that in a second, because he should be back. He said he's feeling better than ever for this. It's not even Sunday, it's Monday, and Monday is Christmas. It's coming up right around the corner, sneaking up right behind us. And just for a short programming note for all of our listeners, we will have some fun stuff for you after the holiday. In fact, we may even take a few days off, but you know what? We can't stay away from this. We're addicted to talking to all of Ian's. So myself, Brian, or whoever else may jump on the horn here or there. But just in case you wonder where we disappear, it really depends on what happens when they play the Texans on Monday night on Christmas, or Monday afternoon on Christmas Day, as to how we proceed, because that Browns game may not mean anything. And you know what? I might be the nice guy that I am. Everybody calls me the boss. I don't feel like a boss. We're all friends. We're all family here at Steel City Underground. But I think maybe we will take a few days off and just kind of go with a light workload, so to speak. So we may have some stuff, I don't know, a little unpredictable here just because of the hectic holidays and all of our plans. So before we dig into the rest of this, a happy holidays to you and yours, whatever that holiday may be. I'm not afraid to say happy Hanukkah or Merry Christmas to those where it applies. And if it doesn't apply to you, then season's greetings. And I hope to say Happy New Year before that day comes. Of course, New Year's Eve with the Cleveland Browns the following date, and that could be a Landry Jones show again. It all depends. The Steelers right now, of course, tied with the Patriots, and the Patriots draw, I think, the Bills and the Jets for their final two games. Bills have to win to stay in it. They still have quite a bit of a chance, but it's starting to look problematic there, and Tyrod Taylor had an absolute miserable outing against them the last time. But before, I'm not letting go yet. You thought I let go. You thought I forgot about the Jesse James catch. I called it a catch, just like Alberto Riveron did in his official explanation. He starts off with that, but I said that the last time. People were still talking about this in the middle of the week, and Chris Carter said, had this happened and it was Gronk and the ball slipped, the Patriots wouldn't be talking about it, none of their fans, and who are you kidding? These people come out of the woodwork. They come out from whatever caves they're in. Now they've got, cojones of steel. They've got the guts to approach and talk smack. And it's just like, you've got to be kidding me after, all this. And no one's denying that both of these teams are the top pedigree teams in not just this year, but in the NFL for like over a decade and a half. The Steelers and Patriots, they haven't had like losing records. They barely missed the playoffs. And of course, what the Patriots have done and what the Steelers have done. So there's no love lost here, and you could definitely swallow a good game. It had, like I said, had that ended and the Steelers they couldn't muster and couldn't score, couldn't get in position. But the way that ended with an overturned call that looked fairly obvious to everybody in the world that isn't a diehard Patriots fan, and then, of course, Eli Rogers getting mugged at the very end, not letting it go, in the back pocket, going to pull that out, take a look at it, and remember, don't forget. We should put the date down. When was that? I can't think now. December 16th.
17th.
Yeah, something. Yeah, who cares? It really isn't that important. You get my point.
17th.
You get my point. The Steelers should go into Houston, Texas, mad that they're playing yet another almost semi-primetime game. They haven't played at 1 o'clock since, Shep was a pup. I don't know what that means. My dad used to say that stupid stuff. Maybe you're like old enough to be my dad, Brian. But these guys should be mad they're playing on Christmas again. I think they'll be in the holiday spirit and be willing to not give the kind of gifts that the Texans want, but maybe they'll get the gift of the Jaguars beat the Texans 45-7. The Texans are 4-10. You have some choice words to say, because I said, what do we need to know about the Texans? What do we need to talk about, Brian? And I think you summed it up pretty well.
Yeah, it's really not that hard. They stink. They're a terrible team. They're the worst team the Steelers are going to play. The Cleveland Browns wish the Texans were back on their schedule at this point in the season so they could get another win. They could get a win. That's how bad the Texans are. The Texans are 2 guys right now, Jadeveon Clowney and DeAndre Hopkins. The rest of the team is backups, second stringers. Hell, their quarterback is a third stringer. And, they're going to start on their offensive line a practice squad guy. They are awful. Just awful. And, they have no running game. They have bad offensive line, a third string quarterback. They've got 1 receiver. He's a very good receiver. There's no question about that. DeAndre Hopkins is Antonio Brown light. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the biggest guy. He gets open though. And he deserves the Pro Bowl nod that I think he did get. I don't know. It doesn't matter. If he didn't, he deserves it. If he did, he deserves it. And on the flip side, you got Jadeveon Clowney and maybe Zach Cunningham. Jadeveon Clowney has 9 sacks. What I want out of this game is get ahead quick. And then just be conservative, because they aren't going to be able to score. There's no good reason. Cam Hayward should have 5 sacks in this game. TJ Watt should have 5 sacks in this game. They should double their sack total for the year in this game. Maybe not quite that much, but that's how bad this offensive line is.
This was the game that I had penciled. I mentioned it like I think I actually recorded. I think I actually recorded the show. And before I released, or shortly, like within like hours of releasing it, Deshaun Watson went down. And it's been downhill for the Houston Texans since. And I hate using one game for a benchmark, but Tom Savage wasn't getting it done anyway in place of Watson. He went in a concussion protocol. As far as I know, still not out. If it's TJ Yates put up a 48.9 quarterback rating. He's just absolutely miserable. You may remember TJ Yates as the guy that came in for a few plays when Bud Dupree knocked Matt Moore out of the wild card game last year against the Miami Dolphins. Now, you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. 4 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown despite – he still gets it done despite who's throwing him the ball. You or myself could throw him the ball. He's still going to put up Pro Bowl numbers. Here's the problem with this. He was targeted 13 times and only caught 4 of them. How many of those are on target that you can't connect with DeAndre Hopkins? Just not good. Will Fuller's also a pretty decent wide receiver. I think the Steelers are going to match up. Yeah, I think the Steelers are going to match up pretty good, because here's the number one thing. Blake Bortles everybody's like, oh, Blake Bortles is putting up great numbers lately. Yeah, who they played? They played nobody lately. You got Blake Bortles throwing. He had 143.8 quarterback rating on just 29 attempts, 326 yards and 3 touchdowns. And they brought Chad Henne in at the end to take the victory formation and whatnot. But the Jaguars didn't move the ball necessarily too well on this team. I don't think they have an explosive offense anywhere near the Steelers, and they still got 464 net yards. They only went 3 for 10 on third downs. The Texans went 4 for 16, but Jacksonville had 25 first downs, of which only 3 of those were on third down plays. Wow.
Yeah. And I don't think they had Leonard Fournette.
No, they didn't. They were playing Grant Yeldon and Chris Ivory were their backs.
So you're talking, I mean, look, it's clear evidence of a team that you're talking about decimated by injuries. I was looking at some statistics for how many different guys they've had playing, and I don't remember the numbers, but they lead the leagues in most different players having snaps on special teams, in the most different players having snaps on offense. Nobody is above them. They've had so many moving parts on their team this year due to injury and setback. I mean, it really looked like at the beginning of the year this was going to be a tough game, an awesome game. When you've got J.J. Watt potentially on the opposite side of Jadeveon Clowney, you've got Deshaun Watson, who looked like he was having a rookie of the year kind of year. And then, quickly they lose J.J. Watt, then they lose Deshaun Watson. They keep losing people. They just lost Nick Martin, who was their rookie starting center, who has potential now. I think the guard is moving to center, and a practice side guy is coming in to play guard. This is a team that is truly decimated to the point where I don't believe they can compete on the field. That being said, it'll probably be a last-minute Chris Boswell field goal that wins the game.
That better not be the case. I really do think, I really do believe that the Steelers, I'm not even saying like an upper hand, like this should be an overwhelming statement of we're better than everybody. I mean, it sucks that you lose Antonio Brown, okay? It's going to be for hopefully just 3 weeks. That would be the Texans, the Browns, and a bye week in the playoffs. That's what the goal. That's what the goal is. You yourself even said, we said this off the air, and you said the Texans are so bad that Cleveland wishes they got to play them again. It could be the worst team that the Steelers have played all year. Now, we've seen the Steelers play down to like the Colts. I think it's more or less everybody plays up to the Steelers. I think
absolutely.
It would be the same thing with like the Patriots or anything else. They're playing up to, like I said, the teams with the pedigree and whatnot. I'm trying to pull up some things on the Texans. They lost that young running back too. Was it Foreman that they drafted? That
Foreman? From Texas, I think it is Dante Foreman.
Yeah, and he was having a great year too. And Lamar Miller just kind of whatever he does there. And then they were playing and Miller was banged up, I think, too. And they had what's his name? They had to pick up Andre Ellington, and it was just it's been a dumpster fire for them for any number of reasons. Now, they also have they've had to dip into the wide receiver pool around the league. They picked up Kobe Hamilton, the former Steeler, so he's there now. And they're just a makeshift team. It's very hard for me to objectively think of anywhere or any reason why the Texans should be able to give the Steelers any kind of problems. As far as the pass defense, they're 27th. They're 10th against the rush, but I think Le'Veon Bell is going to break that 8,000 games and the fewest games. I think he's at 61 right now for Eric Dickerson's record for all-purpose yards. So I think Bell is going to smash that this upcoming I want to keep saying weekend. It's just this is the other thing that kind of it sucks is I don't want to be watching this game on Christmas again. You got places to go. I got my young daughter that's going to be opening gifts over my mom's house and everything like that. And now you got to like set up stuff. And my mom, doesn't have like a cable TV even as much as internet. So this is going to be one of those things I'm streaming on an iPad or an iPhone for part of the game, maybe listening on the radio, DVRing and rewatching. This is a hassle, and this is a pain in the butt for anybody who isn't, because not everybody lives in Pittsburgh and has all of their family right there in Pittsburgh, and everybody's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. In fact, there's people in my family that don't even care about football or sports for that matter. They're going to be rolling their eyes, trying to turn on It's a Wonderful Life. So these things just annoy me. This annoyed me when they announced it on the schedule. So I hope this annoys the Steelers just as much following all the crap that just happened at Heinz Field. Then I'm hoping some things happen. It's going to be weird because the Steelers are going to be playing this game on Monday. So almost everyone's going to be done. They're going to know whether or not the Patriots won or lost, and whether the Jaguars won or lost, and what this game means, and also what the following weekend's going to mean, all in one nice little gift-wrapped package. But again, I don't see – the Steelers are 6-1 on the road this year. The Texans are 3-4 at home. And – the Texans heavily skewed 14th in points scored. They're 32nd in points allowed. They've given up the most points, but they're not scoring the 14th most points anywhere near like they were when Deshaun Watson went out. They haven't crossed 20 points since they played the Arizona Cardinals last month on November 19th, and that's the only time they have since they put up some points against, I think, the Seahawks, and then that's after that was the last time they had Watson. So since they lost Watson, they haven't had anything going good for them whatsoever. And I just, I don't see it. I don't see Tom Savage, TJ Yates having any success, especially when the Steelers are going to get Joe Hayden and possibly some other guys back, like a Vance McDonald or anything like that. These are some tune-up games for the postseason.
Yeah, the big gift you mentioned it'll be a wonderful Christmas gift if Joe Hayden is back on the field, giving him a chance to get any rust off of the tires or whatever initially. But if you have Joe Hayden on the field and the only option for Texas is DeAndre Hopkins, not to mention the fact that TJ Yeldon, because I don't think Tom Savage will be anywhere near the field, is likely to be running for his quarterback life.
TJ Yates, TJ Yeldon's the running back.
TJ Yates, Yeldon Yates, they're the same daggone guy.
Well, Yates
you never see him in the same room.
Yates will be running for his life, and Yeldon won't be able to run at all if he even plays. Because,
that's true. Yeah.
So. Yeah. Oh no! Yeah, Yeldon. Yeldon's a Jaguar. Come on, man! You got me confused now.
I know. TJ Yates.
Yes,
it's Yates. It's Yates. See, there is a nameless quarterback playing for the Texans. We don't care who it is. It doesn't matter. He's going to be running for his life. Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward, Javon Hargrave, T.J. Watt, and Bud Dupree. They should have tremendous games, because that offensive line is a sieve. They should be able to play the run on the way to the quarterback in this game. The Texans are going to try and run the ball. They have to try and run the ball. But I don't see them having any success with Lamar Miller and Alfred Blue and Andre Ellington and Jordan Todman is also there, but I don't think he's even going to get a hat. But they just have no weapons. They have nothing to fear in this group. So it's very unlikely. I think when you get Joe Hayden back, if this is a game where Tyler Matakevich could get some snaps if he's able to go, Sean Spence will be able to cover anybody coming out of that backfield. There's just nothing to fear, which of course will make Steelers Nation exceptionally nervous. But I agree with you. I agree with you that this is a game. Literally, they should outscore the Texans by 1 billion points. If they chose to, they should score every time they have the ball. They're that much better. Doesn't mean they will. And on any given Sunday, a team can, outperform or perform up beyond their normal level of play. But that's how much better they are than this team.
Yeah, and Mike Tomlin, he pointed out some things too, and he was polite and politically correct where we don't have to be.
Right.
They don't have C.J. Fedorowicz came back for like a game or two, and then he's back and gone, and they don't really even have tight ends for that matter. Like you said, Cam Hayward, any of these guys should have a solid game with the Steelers' defense. I think a lot of people are still thinking about, well, what if there's like a big play? It's still DeAndre Hopkins. You know who's been quiet? We mentioned this once before, and he's probably going to be even more quiet if Hayden is full go. It was Cam Sutton, even with Tom Brady out there on Sunday. Cam Sutton had a heck of a game, I thought, for being really tossed into the fire. And there was like something somebody else pointed out, maybe it was Jerry Dulac or Ed Bouchette or one of the Steelers beat writers about who's had the most penalties. And they were talking, Artie Burns we pointed out how many of those Artie Burns ones, at least half of them are BS pass interference calls. Now, I think the one of them, the against the Patriots, was kind of an armbar type thing and probably a legitimate call. I didn't necessarily have so much a problem with that. And that stuff's going to happen. Like we said it about Gronk, as much as it pains us to see he's AFC Offensive Player of the Week. You said all you can hope to do is limit him, and they did it for all but maybe like a final drive or whatever. That's just what's going to happen. DeAndre Hopkins will probably get a few of his, but I don't really expect him to be putting up 200 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns or anything that should put the Texans over the top in this game. I don't expect the Texans to even be in field goal range. I would be very surprised, especially considering, like I said, the Texans' last few games. I had it here. Hold on one second. Bringing it back up. 7 against Jacksonville, 16 against San Fran, 13 against Tennessee, and 16 points against Baltimore. 4 losses in a row to all of those teams. I don't even see how they get to 20 points against the Steelers, and I think the Steelers easily, if you look at all of these other teams, the Jaguars put up 45, the San Francisco 49ers, I think Garoppolo's debut, 26 points in a victory. The Titans put up 24, which they couldn't do on the Steelers. You have the Ravens put up 23, and the Ravens offense was not necessarily anything special either. Cardinals even put up 21 on this Texans team, this Houston team. The Colts laid 20 on them. The Browns even put up 17. I think this is going to be a real struggle for the Texans to slow these guys down, A, B, or not. As long as you have Juju, Martavis Bryant, Lev Bell, Big Ben, not necessarily always the strongest on the road, but he has been on fire. He's been damn near flawless for the last maybe 2 months, ever since they had like that the game with the Titans. We haven't said a whole lot about showing age and blah, 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 getting hit a lot, which he doesn't. I get sick of hearing that. These guys on the radio that are fly-by-nights that they just have a cursory knowledge of what happened, 8 years ago when Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator here in Pittsburgh. It's not like that anymore. Ben looks comfortable. He looks sharp. For the most part, he looks good. I still think the pass at the final play to Eli Rogers was still a good pass. There was like the what if that was Antonio Brown? He would have gotten mugged too. Probably the same result. So I don't even think that was a bad decision, to be honest. So I think Ben is the difference maker in this one.
Well, I think that's a good possibility. The one question that is kind of outstanding with me, and I'm trying to see if I can figure it out, is which side Clowney plays on. And, in other words, who's going to be blocking Jadeveon Clowney? He's an outside linebacker. I have a feeling he was going to line up a lot on Alejandro. And This is a guy who is very fast. And there's a good chance they're gonna have to give Big Al some help. I mean, Big Al got a Pro Bowl nod, and that's great. And I don't want to say he's not deserving, but he hasn't really had the best year.
Yeah, some of that was some of that was definitely the fan vote.
Absolutely. I love Al. I think he does a great job considering, the limited amount of time he's played the position. But this is the kind of guy that can give Villanueva trouble. Really fast, really speedy, can bend, can move, And, Al can have a hard time with some of those types of guys. So they're going to have to plan for that. And I think that will mean keeping Bell into Chip Clowney, having a tight end chip him. Somebody's going to have to help, slow him down. But I think Juju will have a huge game. The safeties are mediocre. The corners are mediocre for the Texans. I think Juju can have a huge game playing now as I guess either a true number 2 or in the slot. Martavis should be able to build off of a solid game that he had last week with some really great kind of catches that we've been waiting for him to make all year long. I think he should be able to have a great game. And as a result, I think Ben will have a good game. But if Ben is off, if Ben isn't on his P's and Q's, it won't matter if all these guys are open, and it will be a problem. So I think you could be right in saying Ben could be the difference maker here. It is a game that I think the only real worry for me is the fact that it's on the road on a holiday. Mm-hmm. And that's going to put, you got to understand, traveling on a holiday, a lot of these guys have families, a lot of them have kids, and so you have Christmas away from home, and that's never as comfortable as it would be if they were at home. So, there's that can put them off a little bit. They do have a history of coming off big emotional games and having a letdown. But, again, I think they can survive any of that with this game. And I just think they're too stocked. They're just too stocked to not have this be a walk.
I can't disagree with any of that. And, I just want to revisit something from the last game, too. We were mostly on point with everything. We made a comment about whether Taylor Matakevich had played much, if at all, in that game, and he didn't get a single snap on the defensive side of the ball. It was almost overwhelmingly Sean Spence, but a quarter of it, LJ Fort. And we may see more of LJ Fort depending on how it goes, because I think you got to know what you got. And like I said, I hate to call it like a preseason game, but if you get your feet wet enough and you don't have to worry about protecting a lead in the game, and you could get maybe a little more creative, you may be able to get Cam Sutton some more reps. It's going to be interesting to see if he plays and where he plays and how much he plays, if Hayden's back all the way. You want to come out of it healthy, of course. Maybe they don't press Hayden into coverage. Maybe it's a swap like they did with Sensabaugh up until the Patriots game. There was quite a bit of man coverage played in that as well, a lot. So the two surprises really were that Sensabaugh didn't play at all, Matakevich didn't play at all on that defensive side of the ball. And then if you notice this, Brian, I know we mentioned it privately off the air, but this wasn't something as part of the game review because we were too busy, swearing about all of the officiating in both of our reviews, but they moved Watt and Bud Dupree. They changed sides, and they had Watt playing on the left and Dupree playing on the right. But that wasn't even the most surprising thing. Is both of them just about a little over 60% of playing time. They were putting in LT Walton, Tyson Alualu, and leaving Hargrave out there, and they were putting 4- and 5-man fronts with big boys, or they were just going with all DBs and barely any linebackers. They had a lot of different looks with the New England Patriots. So these are some things that they could work on. And we talk about putting things on film, but you got to play. You got to know what works. And I think this is an opportunity for the Steelers to know. And another surprising one on the offensive side of the ball that most people maybe aren't aware of. I think Juju Smith-Schuster played all but one snap in the game. He barely came off the field at all, where Martavis was more or less in that 60-ish percent range. Yeah. Antonio Brown usually never comes off the field. Well, Antonio Brown got hurt. Juju assumed that role. Juju, for a rookie, was put everywhere. Both sides, outside, inside, slot, wherever you could fit him, and he was doing well. And this is going to be another test since he's a rookie. Notice the guys I'm mentioning here, the inexperienced players. You have Hayden, who is still, I'm not going to say he's new to this team, but he's been out for a little bit. Time to get his feet wet. Time maybe to get Sutton some more looks. LJ Fort some more looks. Sean Spence, who hasn't been around for a minute. Same thing with Juju. He was hurt. He was suspended. Martavis Bryant maybe finally getting in sync with Ben again. This is a good thing with these type of opponents. if you can build this rapport, come out with W's, secure your first round bye, it's going to be scary to see what happens, if healthy, of course, knocking on wood, and they get Antonio Brown back for that maybe a postseason run.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that they will. There was a Sunday Night Football doctor posted a video on Twitter today where he was talking about what he thinks AB's injury is, which is, essentially a deep bruise, which is good because it heals faster. And that's why I think they can expect to have him back for a playoff game, especially if they can get the bye. And they really at this point, because of that last game, because of what happened, they need to win these last two games. They do need to beat the Texans. They need to beat the Browns in order to secure that first round bye. The Jags are nipping at their heels, and we all know that if they stumble once and the Jags don't, then the Jags own the tiebreaker, so they could slide down to the third spot. I'm still holding out some measure of hope that a familiar foe for the Patriots, like the Bills, will surprise them. Mm-hmm. Because the Patriots, we saw it in that game. We've seen it all season long. The Patriots, they could be a team that is sitting at 9-5 right now, or worse, if they don't get some help from the refs and a little bit more luck. And as you said, a field goal kicker who suddenly can't kick in Tampa.
Yeah.
So, it's not inconceivable. I'm not going to give the Jets that much credit at this point now with McCown out.
No.
But it's not inconceivable that the Bills could go up there, and if the defense decides to play hard and strong, give those guys a run for their money. Every now and then the Bills surprise the Patriots and beat them. So I'm kind of holding out hope, let's say 0.017% chance hope. Yeah. But it's still there. It exists.
Yeah, it's still a division opponent. It's like you said, familiar foe. I don't think the Bills have a quarterback that's very capable, but New England's still banged up, and they lost Burkhead still. I don't know. I haven't kept up with their practice reports and whatnot to say about Chris Hogan and all that. But, hey, you never know, and they'll be paying attention to that. And that may be even more further motivation headed into Monday should the Patriots fall on Sunday for the Steelers. The one last bit of news that occurred, of course, James Conner. I'd be remiss without mentioning that he was placed on injured reserve. Steelers signed former Patriot, actually, and a guy who's jumped around from team to team to team, veteran running back Stephen Ridley, now a Pittsburgh Steeler. And I think, whenever you pick up somebody anytime during the season, but this late, folks, don't expect too much out of this. I wouldn't be surprised if Fitz Toussaint jumps into the number 2 role. A lot of people upset. Why not call Terrell Watson back up? Well, because they know what Terrell Watson is, and he's a short yardage, ground and pound type guy, and that's not necessarily what they need at this moment. Ridley could even slide in and just be the kick returner to ensure that Fitz Toussaint doesn't get banged up or hurt. It may not happen right away. I don't even know if that's in Ridley's skill set, to be completely honest, but we've seen it happen before with guys like Felix Jones years ago that they just signed out of the blue, guys that bounce around the league. Ridley probably more in the mold of like a Bell type player as far as catching passes out of the backfield. I wouldn't anticipate too much from him. In fact, you never really saw Conner a whole lot, and Conner was getting at most 5-6 snaps in a game. I think he had 9 against the Patriots, which may have been his season high, and then of course he got hurt. I think Toussaint got 1 carry out of all of that. You're going to see them, and if the last week really means nothing because of whatever happens this upcoming weekend, I do think that you might see more of Ridley. They may not even chance having Toussaint play too much against Cleveland. I'm kind of jumping ahead there, but in case we don't get a chance to talk about it because of the holidays, don't expect a whole lot out of Ridley. He's just there. Maybe he's really, I don't even want to say an insurance policy. He's just a capable guy that if you must call upon, he's on the roster, and you get him a couple weeks here to get ingrained with a few plays in the playbook, and he's somebody you might be able to call upon for a spell here or there, but Bell is going to be the workhorse going forward.
Yeah, the other thing they could do with Ridley is if by some unfortunate circumstances Toussaint has to take heavy snaps at running back, they could put him back. He's kick returned before as well. So I agree with you 100%. I don't think Ridley even sees the field unless it's an absolute emergency. But that's why he's signed. He's signed for an emergency.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
we'll just have to see what happens. Hopefully those emergencies don't occur. Hopefully this game goes as it should. And we end up being 12-3 at the end of this.
Yeah, with one more to go. Very sad. Football season almost coming to a close. Not for the Steelers. They still have the postseason.
Absolutely.
So, okay, suckers, I got you, at least. So I'm talking about you, Cleveland. Maybe.
Cincy.
Oh, man. Marvin Lewis on his way out. Me and Terry talked about that the other day. Can't get fired if you quit. So
that's right.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad to see him go. He's only beaten the Steelers like 8 times in like 15, 16 years or something. So maybe he'll get a fine predecessor like one of the great coaches that he let go from under his tree, like Hugh Jackson. So that'll be even better for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It would be a nice Christmas present. So speaking of which, happy holidays to you and yours, everyone. Thanks again for listening. My name's Brian, or my name's not Brian. His name's Brian. My name's Joe. Be safe, be good, happy holidays, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.